Shalom, family.
Shalom.
Welcome to another new moon, new month. Hallelujah for the fact that we've been brought through the holy days and we get to yet see another month, another day. So for every moment of life, we should give praise. Tonight's class is called Look Unto Abraham, Your Father, and unto Sarah that bear you. Look unto Abraham, your father, and Sarah that bear you. And what are we looking on to them for? As examples of the different transitions and things that they went through in their lives, the different trials and tribulations, and even the different roles that they played. So tonight we're probably going to look at more of the roles that they went through so we can also get a better understanding of the transitions that we ourselves will go through. Hearken to me, you that follow after righteousness, you that seek Yahweh. Look unto the rock whence you are hewn, and to the hole of the pit whence you are digged. Look unto Abraham your father, and unto Sarah that bare you. For I called him alone, and blessed him, and increased him. Isaiah chapter 51, verses 1 and 2. Let's begin in Genesis chapter 12, and we're going to read verses 1 through 20. Genesis chapter 12, and we're going to begin at verse 1. We know the many trials and tribulations that Abraham went through. We know it's not easy to just pick up a whole family and move, as Yahweh says, move. But there was so much more to the trials and tribulations that they went through. So when we're going through things, there's perfect examples that we can look to just in Father Abraham himself. Genesis chapter 12 and verse 1.
Now Yahweh had said unto Abram, Get you out of your country, and from your kindred, and from your father's house, unto a land that I will show you. And I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you, and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless you, and curse him that curse you. In you shall all families of the earth be blessed. So Abram departed, as Yahweh had spoken unto him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran.
So this man's journey began at age 75. But Yahweh said, you alone. I will bless you. I'll make your name great. But then we get down to verse 4 and it says, Lot went with him. Go ahead.
And Abram took Sarai, his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their substance that they had gathered, and the souls that they had gotten in Haran, and they went forth to go into the land of Canaan, and into the land of Canaan they came. And Abram passed through the land unto the place of Shechem, unto the plain of Moriah, and the Canaanite was then in the land. And Yahweh appeared unto Abram and said, Unto your seed will I give this land. And there builded he an altar unto Yahweh, who appeared unto him. And he removed from thence unto a mountain on the east of Bethel, and pitched his tent, having Bethel on the west, and Hai on the east. And there he built an altar unto Yah, and called upon the name of Yahweh. And Abram journeyed, going on still toward the south. And there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down into Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was grievous in the land. And it came to pass, when he was come near to enter into Egypt, that he said unto Sarai his wife, Behold now, I know that you are a fair woman to look upon. Therefore it shall come to pass, when the Egyptians shall see you, that they shall say, This is his wife. And they will kill me, but they will save you alive. Say, I pray you, You are my sister, that it may be well with me for your sake, and my soul shall live because of you. And it came to pass that when Abram was coming to Egypt, the Egyptians beheld the woman, that she was very fair. The princess also of Pharaoh saw her, and commended her before Pharaoh. And the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. And he entreated Abram well for her sake. And he had sheep and oxen, and he had asses and men servants and maid servants, and she asses and camels. And Yahweh plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. And Pharaoh called Abram and said, What is this that you have done to me? Why did you not tell me that she was your wife? Why said you, She is my sister? So I might have taken her to me to wife. Now therefore, behold, your wife, take her and go your way. And Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away, and his wife, and all that he had.
Why said you, She is my sister, so I might have taken her to wife, to me to wife? Now therefore, behold your wife, take her, and go your way. Let's look at this situation from its spiritual context. As we journey on this road to salvation, can we see how it's beneficial to be able to transition from the role of a wife to also being a sister in the Word? Looking at the situation from the perspective that what is being done is not only so that things will go well for you, the husband, but that it will also save your soul, which in turn goes well for the whole house. So here she is. She knows her position, but he's asking her, I need you to be my sister at this point, so that things will go well for me, which in turn goes well for us. There's a transition of roles that people sometimes are not willing to say, you know what, this is what I need to be right now in this situation to make things go well for us all. And sometimes some people do that better than others. But we have to realize that transitions are necessary on this walk to salvation, because you can't stay in that same place all the time, not if you're growing. If you're staying in the same place all the time, then something is wrong with your growth. Let's go to Genesis chapter 20. We're going to read verses 1 through 13.
Before we go there, while we go there, you see in a lot of situations, like up here where you read in Isaiah chapter 51, he said, I called him alone.
Right.
And sometimes we'll take certain things, and just because it said plainly, I called him alone, we neglect the help and the things that will sit there to help you.
Right.
But such as that help me, Sarai.
Right. And see, he didn't take on this situation saying, hey, I can handle all of this. It was necessary for her to get involved in a certain position to be able to save the whole house. The strength lied with her at that point in time. Mm-hmm. He had no strength in this situation. Go ahead. Genesis chapter 20 and start at verse 1. We're going to read verse 1 through 13.
And Abraham journeyed from thence toward the south country, and dwelt between Kadesh and Shur, and sojourned in Gerar. And Abraham said to Sarai his wife, She is my sister. And Abimelech, king of Gerar, sent and took Sarai. But Elohim came to Abimelech in a dream by night, and said to him, Behold, you are but a dead man, for the woman which you have taken, for she is a man's wife. But Abimelech had not come near her. And he said, Adonai, will you slay also a righteous nation? Said he not unto me, She is my sister? And she, even she herself, said, He is my brother? In the integrity of my heart and the innocence of my hands have I done this. And Elohim said unto him in a dream, Yeah, I know that you did this in the integrity of your heart, for I also withheld you from sinning against me. Therefore suffered I you not to touch her. Now therefore restore the man his wife, for he is a prophet, and he shall pray for you, and you shall live. And if you restore her not, know you that you shall surely die, you and all that are yours. Therefore Abimelech rose early in the morning, and called all his servants, and told all these things in their ears. And the men were sore afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham, and said unto him, What hast you done unto us? And what have I offended you, that you brought on me and my kingdom a great sin? Though you hast done deeds unto me that ought not to be done. And Abimelech said unto Abraham, What saws you that you had done this thing? And Abraham said, Because I thought surely the fear of Elohim is not in this place, and they will slay me for my wife's sake. And yet indeed she is my sister. She is the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother. And she became my wife. And it came to pass, when Elohim caused me to wander from my father's house, that I said unto her, This is your kindness which you shall show unto me. In every place whither you shall come, say of me, He's my brother.
Now, verse 10 is kind of interesting. And Abimelech said unto Abraham, What saw you that you have done these things? This man is saying, man, what did you see in my kingdom that made you think that we would kill you over a woman? What's your thought process? And in the same token, when you flip it back, in verse 5, said he not unto me, she's my sister? And she herself said, he's my brother. So she agreed with him. He said it, she agreed. There's two people that can have two different perspectives. Because at this point, he's saying, hey, man, they lied to me. At this point, he's putting forth, they lied to me. And when he comes and says, hey, man, what was your perspective of us that you think this way of us? And Abram turns around and explains the situation. She is my sister. This is how she's my sister. So at that point, he's clearing up any misconceptions that she lied for him and that they're liars. Cleared it up. Because you'll have people that will read this situation here and say, well, he made her lie for him. And she agreed to lie for him. He cleared it up. He said, no, this is the situation. This is why we're able to say this. But we see different perspectives of how somebody looked. You walk into my city, and you think of us this way. What made you think of us this way? That also goes to show you have to be careful how you're dealing. Because you could be dealing with a situation over here on the right, and you never know how somebody on the left is looking at it. But also is the person on the left capable or strong enough to come and say, hey, I saw this. Can you explain that to me? You may not get that opportunity. So whatever perspective they walked away with, that's how you're being seen. We don't always get the opportunity to clear up misconceptions. Let's go to, Genesis 20, verses 1 through 13. Let's go to Genesis chapter 18. So these are two different situations where Abram and Abraham had to ask Sarai to say, I need you to stand in this stead. So it will go well for me, which then goes well for us. Genesis chapter 18, we're going to read verses 11 through 19.
Now Abraham and Sarah were old and well stricken in age, and ceased to be with Sarai after the manner of women. Therefore Sarai laughed within herself, saying, After I am waxed old, shall I have pleasure? My master being old also? And Yahweh said unto Abraham, Wherefore did Sarai laugh, saying, Shall I of a surety bear a child, which am old? Is anything too hard for Yah? At the time appointed I will return unto you according to the time of life, and Sarai shall have a son. Then Sarai denied, saying, I laugh not, for she was afraid. And he said, Nay, but you did laugh. And the men rose up from thence and looked toward Sodom. And Abraham went with them to bring them on the way. And Yahweh said, Shall I hide from Abraham that thing which I do, seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him? For I know him, that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of Yahweh to do justice and judgment, that Yahweh may bring upon Abraham that which he has spoken of him.
For I know him that he will command his children and his household after him. This is easier said than done, especially when the children whom you want to grow up, especially when the children want to grow up quickly, and when they think they have become of age, don't feel as if they should be corrected, least of all want to believe that they're being commanded to do something. It is within this that we are able to keep the way of Yahweh. Yes, some of us have children and we fight these fights with them. We are also these same children being commanded to keep the way of Yahweh by Yahweh. But can we see or recognize who is fighting this fight with us, or who it is we are fighting against? So the same way that we have children fighting against us to walk this walk, we got Yahweh fighting with us to walk this walk. And just like the children receive punishment, we receive punishment too. So here's another role that we have to walk into. While we're parenting, we also still have to be open to be children guided, receiving our corrections from our Elohim. So you see how there's another shift in a role? You're a parent, but yet you still have to be a child. Being led by your Heavenly Father. Do we stop and look at when our children are fighting against us and recognize when we're fighting against what thus says Yah? And sometimes it's not even that we're fighting against Yahweh because we don't see it. You might be fighting against the individual that Yahweh has sent to guide you. It could be the priest. It could be an elder. It could be an imam. It could be a sister. It could be one of these children who are more versed in the word than you or I. But can you see yourself when you're putting up that fight and that resistance? Just as quickly as you can recognize when your child is doing it. The word command, which a lot of people don't like to hear the word command. I'm commanding you to do this. Can you read the definition for command for me, please, brother?
Command from H560, Amar, Kaldi, corresponding to H559. Command, declare, say, speak, tell.
Let us look at one such instance of this call, tell, command. Let's go to Genesis chapter 16, and we're going to read verses 1 through 6. We all have a problem with commanded. Hey, I'm commanding you to do this. You commanding who? Who are you talking to? Genesis chapter 16, and we're going to read verses 1 through 6.
Now Sarai, Abram's wife, bare him no children. And she had a handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. And Sarai said unto Abram, Behold now, Yahweh hath restrained me from bearing. I pray you, go in unto my maid. It may be that I may obtain children by her. And Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarai. And Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife. And he went in unto Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. And Sarai said unto Abram, My wrong be upon you. I have given my maid into your bosom. And when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. Yahweh judge between me and you. But Abram said unto Sarai, Behold, your maid is in your hand. Do to her as it pleases you. And when Sarai dealt hardly with her, she fled from her face.
So At the end of the day, it says that he hearkened unto her voice. But the same way that Yahweh came and told him about the situation, he could have easily waited so Yahweh could have better explained what was going to happen. But then a statement was made, my wrong be upon you. Yahweh judge between me and you. We're going to get to that in a few. Let's go to Genesis chapter 21. I want y'all to remember, she said, my wrong be upon you. Genesis chapter 21, and we're going to read verses 1 through 12.
And Yahweh visited Sarah, as she had said, and Yahweh did unto Sarah as he had spoken. For Sarah conceived and bare Abraham a son in his old age, at the set time of which Yahweh had spoken to him. And Abraham called the name of his son that was born unto him, whom Sarah bare to him, Esaac. And Abraham circumcised his son Esaac, being 8 days old, as Elohim had commanded him. And Abraham was 100 years old when his son Esaac was born unto him. And Sarah said, Elohim had made me to laugh, so that all that hear will laugh with me. And she said, who would have said unto Abraham that Sarah should have given children suck? For I have borne him a son in his old age. And the child grew and was weaned. And Abraham made a great feast the same day that Esau was weaned. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, which she had borne unto Abraham, mocking. Wherefore she said unto Abraham, cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, even with Esau. And the thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight, because of his son. And Elohim said unto Abraham, let it not be grievous in your sight because of the lad, and because of your bondwoman, and all that Sarah had said unto you, hearken unto her voice. For Esau shall be your seed, shall your seed be called.
Yahweh said, hearken unto her voice. Yahweh did not say anything when she suggested to take on Hagar. We did not hear hearken unto her voice. But in this instant, he steps in and tells Abraham to do what she says. Abraham could have stopped this from even getting to this point. You listened to her when it was a bad decision, and you're going to listen to her now and fix this problem. Is basically what he said. Hearken. And she said, Yahweh judge between me and you. And Yahweh is judging between him and her. Several things went wrong. First things first, the child of another woman was never going to be heir. Abraham was given instructions. Abraham hearkened to the voice of Sarai and allowed this thing to happen. Yahweh eventually steps in to fix it. Abraham could have stopped this whole situation from going wrong. Let's go to Genesis chapter 16. I'll just read it. Genesis chapter 16 and verse 4 says, when Hagar saw that she conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. There had to be something going on that should have been notable and dealt with by Abraham. But it wasn't. Then when she asked him to deal with, she being Sarah, asked him to deal with the situation, to bring balance back in the house, he told her to take care of it. But she was already in a bad place, so she dealt hard with it. Sometimes when a person says, look, I can't deal with this right now, I need you to go deal with it, they might be at their wit's ends. You just want to blow it off and go do your whole thing. Although Hagar was told to return and submit herself to Sarah, it is obvious this feeling of despise never went away because it showed itself up in her son towards the son of Sarah, once again causing problems in the house. but this time not only for Sarah, but for Abraham also. This type of thing still happens to this very day, as one parent doesn't, and sometimes does, know that their actions are helping to turn a child against the other parent. The child that Hagar had was supposed to be Sarai's child. Still not the child of promise, but her child just the same. She said, go into my handmaid, so we can have a child by her. Abraham had all control of that situation also, to say, no, this is our child. So at some point, he was more into the child and not bonding the family. So the family dynamics was off balance. That's why Hagar was able to despise Sarah. Go ahead, priest.
And he didn't take control of a situation when he had the opportunity. Yeah, he had the power, but he didn't exercise.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't exercise it well, because when it was favorable for him, he did what was favorable for him.
Exactly.
And then left the situation up to her to deal with the latter part of it, which was the mocking,
and
everything else.
Because it should have never gotten to that point. He could have stepped in. Now we understand why she say, hence, my wrong be upon you. Because you have all control. Even though it was her suggestion and you listened to her, you still had control of how this situation went on from there.
But then when you go back in the text we read earlier, he said, should I hide this thing that I do with Abraham? So you have power, but so much, because Yahweh is working and doing other things also, and He's doing it through Abraham and Sarah, because He sent the other nations off and dealt with the nation and that was inside of another nation.
So you see, even when the child of promise was born, the balance was still off. They ended up having to send him away. So that means all of these years, that unbalance stayed there, even though she was told to go back and submit herself. It already got to a point where there's no bond with her and that child.
Right.
You allowed this to continue. Abraham allowed this to continue. But let's back up and see how she deals with him even after this wrong was done. Let's go to Genesis chapter 18, and we're going to read. Actually, I can just read that as well. Genesis chapter 18 and verse 12. Therefore Sarah laughed within herself, saying, after I'm waxed old, shall I have pleasure, my master being old also? Despite him agreeing to a wrong decision, she still held him in high regard. A decision like this today could cause a man to face all types of belittling and disrespect, but not so with the true daughters of Sarah. It was a mistake, but she still held her husband to the level he was supposed to be held at. We go through this today, you're going to hear you all kind of sorry this, you that, you that. We didn't hear that from Sarah.
And she was left to deal with the situation on her own.
Mm-hmm.
Which usually most of the time goes, in today's society goes the same way also.
But we want to praise ourselves as being heads of households, not looking at the full dynamics of what's going on in the house. But the full dynamics comes with the balance of working together. Because like I stated earlier, you have one parent who will sit over here and watch a child being disrespectful to the other parent and somewhat side with that child and not say, no. We are a unit. We are a unit. No, you don't get to deal with like this way. And then oftentimes you have one person jumping in to constantly help someone else out, but then it's not balanced back the other way. So then you get these children who are able to go on one side and to this one parent while the other one wasn't around and in the air. And this other person's like, why am I always looking at the bad guy? I had a situation when my niece was younger. Her mom's Japanese, so she grew up speaking Japanese. So she went to my brother and asked him something, and he said no. And I watched her leave from my brother and go to her mom, ding, 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 whatever she's speaking over there. Ding, ding, ding. My brother turned around and said, didn't I say no? But that's how quick she tried to pit one against the other. While he's sitting there, she's going to go over there and change the language and go talk to this other person in the air. And he's like, I don't care what language you want to speak it in. Can you say no in English? No. Can you say no in Japanese? No. What's no in Spanish? No. He had to shut it down. But in the same token, the mother should have been, get away from me. You heard what your dad said. Right there, you create an unbalance. Things start getting out of hand. And then you got one person fighting harder than the other person, where if we both just pull together, then it's not that stressful. Then people realize there's unity in the house. We can agree on a no right now, and then later on go sit down and say, okay, well, what do you really think about this situation? Let's look at it and dissect it from all agree. But for right now, in front of this, we're in agreement that the answer is no. Because I'm siding with you. And when houses go topsy-turvy and children are being slapped upside the head, why? Because one allowed the disrespect to happen and sat back like it was nothing. Where are we at?
The next, 1 Peter.
Let's go to 1 Peter chapter 3, and we're going to read verses 1 through 17.
Likewise, you wives, be in subjection to your own husbands, that if any obey not the word, they also may be with the word they also may without the word be won by the conversations of the wives, while they behold your chaste conversations coupled with fear, whose adorning let it not be that outwardly adorning of plaiting of the hair and wearing of gold, or of putting on of apparel, but let it be the hidden man of the heart, in that which is not corruptible, even the ornament of meek and quiet spirit, which is in the sight of Elohim of great price. For after this manner, in the old time, the holy women also, who trusted in Elohim, adorned themselves, being in subjection unto their own husbands.
So if you look at this, we're reading 1 Peter. And we'll say this is ancient. But from then we can see a change had already begun to happen. Peter is saying, for after this manner, the women of old time who trusted in Elohim adorned themselves, being in subjection unto their own husbands. So even in his time, he's letting you know that things are already changing. So can you imagine how far we are off from this now? If he's talking about the old time, how they conducted themselves, the shift already started to take place. So where we're at right now, if Peter could rise and walk up and see this, he'll probably drop dead. Just to wake up and see one of them bodysuits go past, might as well just close your eyes and go back to sleep. Go ahead.
Even as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him master, whose daughter you are, as long as you do well, and are not afraid with any amazement. Likewise, you husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife, as unto the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered. Finally, be you all of one mind.
You know, and going back to what I was talking about with the household, at the end of verse 7, and it says, and as being heirs together of the grace of Elohim, or the grace of life, together. Go ahead. Verse 8.
Having compassion one of another, love as brethren, be pitiful, be courteous, not rendering evil for evil, or railing for railing, but contrariwise blessing, knowing that you are thereunto called, that you should inherit a blessing. For he that will love life and see good days, let him refrain his tongue from evil, and his lips that they speak no guile.
You know, this railing for railing, he's saying, finally be you all of one mind, having compassion one of another, love his brethren, be pitiful, be courteous. First he started this, he's talking about husbands and wives. So how would a husband and wife turn around and deal with each other as brethren? Can we be married and deal with each other as brethren? Sit down and laugh and talk and joke and reason with one another. Are we capable of doing that? We're capable of railing, though. Railing for railing. We can do that with no thought process, with no effort. Go ahead.
Verse 11. Let him eschew evil and do good. Let him seek peace and ensue it.
Let him shun evil and do good. Let him seek peace and ensue it. If you're railing for railing, your doggone show ain't looking for no peace. That will not bring you peace. Do we know how to look at a situation and say, you know what? I'm going to take this next road here, and there's some times where it's necessary to deal with the situation. And then there's times when you see this railing for railing, this back and forth, Is it going to benefit anything or anyone? As it said and will always say, when it comes to this path of righteousness, these arguments will be had. But look at the situation and judge if the railing is even necessary to go back and forth. Go ahead.
Verse 12. For the eyes of the Adonai are over the righteous, and his ears are open unto their prayers. But the face of you.
You know, as we read this, for the eyes of the Adonai are over the righteous, and his ears are open unto their prayers. Right? We also have to consider in this railing for railing, what does it say? You will have to give an account for every idle word. Sometimes in the railing for railing, we just want to win. You're still going to have to account for them idle words that you said just because you wanted to win the argument. Go ahead.
And his ears are open unto their prayers, but the face of the Adonai is against them that do evil. And who is he that will harm you if you be followers of that which is good? And if you suffer for righteousness' sake, happy are you. And be not afraid of their terror, neither be troubled, but sanctify the Adonai Elohim in your hearts, and be ready always to give an answer to every man that asks you in the reason of the hope that is in you with meekness and fear, having a good conscience, that whereas they speak evil of you as evildoers, they may be ashamed that falsely accuse your good conversation in Yahshua. For it is better if the will of Elohim be so, that you suffer for well doing than for evil doing.
All right. Even the Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him master. This manner of salutation and the way she referenced or reverenced her husband is known from generation to generation. Here we are. This is Cephas talking about something that happened back in Genesis and how she referred to her husband and called him master. And here we are, this generation, still capable and able to read the same thing of how she reverenced him and referenced him to him as being master. And this was even after a mistake was made. But I'm telling you, in this day and age, you make certain mistakes, it's held against you, and your whole spirit can be crushed. You look like you got something over there, Reese.
Man. No, I was just thinking. I was just thinking, like, when she, beginning of the book, when she called him brother, you say, man, you and Elder always say, if Yahweh needs you to be a hammer, might need you to be a hammer today, a nail tomorrow, a screwdriver the next day, a screw. It's like, I can see.
You messing with the end of my class, but go ahead.
I'm gonna keep it there. I'm gonna keep this there. I'm gonna keep this. Go ahead.
Let's go to Genesis chapter 26. We're going to read verses 6 through 7. But I mean, that's a good point there of, these different transitions. And that's what it's all about. We see Sarah and Abraham continuing to go through different transitions. We go ahead, Genesis chapter 26, and we're going to read verses 6 through 9.
And Esau dwelt in Gerar. And the men of the place asked him of his wife. And she said, she is my sister. For he feared to say, she is my wife. Least said he, the men of this place should kill me for Rebekah, because she was fair to look upon. And it came to pass, when he had been there a long time, that Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked out at the window, and saw, and behold, Esau was sporting with Rebekah his wife. And Abimelech called Esau and said, behold, of a surety she is your wife. And how says you, she is my sister? And Esau said unto him, because I said, lest I die for her. And Abimelech said, what is this?
That's all I wanted to go. But you see, here we are. Esau is who? The son of Abraham. And Esau has got the same mindset, going through the same thing as did his father with his mother. But we see that he could only contain but for so long of playing this role of brother and sister. But they did what was necessary for the time that was necessary to be able to transition to brother and sister. And then it was known that this is husband and wife. See, in this day and age, when we out in public, everybody want PDA. They want, you must know that I'm with her and he's with me. But sometimes if you step back, you might really get to know a person's thought process just because they don't know the dynamics of the relationship. They might come and say something to you about her, and they might come to you and say something about him, and you both say, oh, so that's how you feel about him, or how you feel about her, which then that's how you feel about us. But nah, not this generation. We got to let everybody know, nah, I'm with her and she's with me. Out in public. So we see here, PDA is not something new. goes way back to Genesis, way back to Esau, sporting with his wife. And whatever sporting he was doing made it obvious that, nah, this ain't no brotherly love and this ain't no sisterly love. This is more than that. But then on the flip side, how much of us actually know how to transition in sport with our wife or sport with our husband? Another role, change of position, transitioning. Let's go to 2 Peter chapter 1. 2 Peter chapter 1, and we're going to read verses 3 through 15.
Second Peter chapter 1, verse 3. According as his divine power hath given unto us all things that pertain unto life and good and godliness, through the knowledge of him that has called us to glory and virtue, whereby are given unto us exceeding great and precious promises, that by these you might be partakers of the divine nature, having escaped the corruption that is in the world through lust. And beside this, giving all diligence, add to your faith virtue, and to virtue knowledge, and to knowledge temperance, and to temperance patience, and to patience godliness, and to godliness brotherly kindness, and to brotherly kindness love. For if these things be in you and abound, they make you that you shall neither be barren nor unfruitful in the knowledge of the Adonai Yahshua the Mashiach. But he that lacks these things is blind and cannot see afar off, and has forgotten that he was purged from his old sins. Wherefore, the rather, brothers, give diligence to make your calling and election sure. For if you do these things, you shall never fall. For so an interest shall be ministered unto you abundantly into the everlasting kingdom of our Adonai Yahshua the Mashiach. Wherefore I will not be negligent to put you always in remembrance of these things, though you know them, and be established in the present truth. Yea, I think it meet, as long as I am in this tabernacle, to stir you up by putting you in remembrance.
And this is what people don't like, stir you up. Stir you up is constantly saying, hey man, this is not what we're about. This is not what Yahweh's about. This man says, as long as I'm here, I'm going to keep stirring you up. Why? To keep these things in your remembrance. But it says, as long as these things are in you. But do we sit down and meditate to see if we have these things in us? We were just given a formula of things that we should have in us. And to knowledge, verse 5, and beside these things, given all diligence, add to your faith virtue, and to virtue knowledge, and to knowledge temperance, and to temperance patience, and to patience godliness, and to godliness brotherly kindness, and to brotherly kindness love. For if these things be in you and abound, they make you that you shall neither be barren nor unfruitful in the knowledge of our Adonai Yahshua HaMashiach. Continue, my brother.
Verse 14, knowing that shortly I must put off this my tabernacle, even as our Adonai Yahshua the Mashiach has showed me.
So he's saying, as long as I'm alive, I'm going to keep stirring these things up in you to bring it back to your remembrance. Why? Because I know shortly I won't be here. Go ahead.
Moreover, I will endeavor that you may be able, after my decease, to have these things always in remembrance.
Because I stirred it up so much, I believe that after I'm gone, you're going to be all right. You gonna be all right. Can you read the definition for temperance for me, please, priest?
Temperance from G1466. Enkratia, self-control. From G1468, self-control, especially continence, temperance.
Self-control. That's a very powerful word. Temperance sounds like what? Temperament. So in that situation of you going off on your temper, you are in control. Having self-control. How we deal with situations. How we deal with changes. How we deal with adjustments. All comes by self-control. Let's go to the conclusion of this whole matter so that we can go ahead and enjoy our new moon meal. Let's go to Mark chapter 3. Mark chapter 3, and we're going to read verses 31 through 35.
Mark chapter 3, verses 31. There came then his brothers and his mother, and standing without, sent unto him, calling him. And the multitude sat about him, and they said unto him, Behold, your mother and your brother without seek for you. And he answered them, saying, Who is my mother, and who is my brother? And he looked around about on them which sat about him, and said, Behold, my mother and my brother. For whosoever shall do the will of Elohim, the same is my brother and my sister and mother.
For whosoever shall do the will of Elohim, the same is my brother and my sister and my mother. The bottom line is that we all have to be open to the so-called changes of hats on this journey. Elder often says, today Yahweh might need you to be a hammer, and tomorrow he may need you to be a nail. As my priest brother was over there touching on my ending class. But during this transition, it doesn't mean that once you have become the nail, you will never be needed as the hammer. I just need you to be a nail in this situation. That don't mean your ability to be the hammer is gone. Abraham, even before having his own children, was a father, uncle, protector, savior, and so much more to his nephew Lot. You go back and you read the story of Lot, what he took Lot with him. Lot was his brother's son. That made him the uncle. But he also played a father role to Lot. When Lot and his substances got taken away, who went and saved them? Abraham did. He was also a peacemaker. When the herdsmen were fighting, he's the one that came and made peace. Hence the name of the class. Look to Abraham. Look to Sarah. Look at the different transitions and roles that they played. Are we incapable of changing when it needs to be for us to change? But don't get stuck in the hammer mode for when Yahweh needs you to be a nail. This is how you add to your talents. Because now you can look back and say, I know how to be a hammer and I know how to be a nail. What else you need me to be? Being a father, a mother, a brother, a sister, a counselor, a friend, a teacher, a reprover, a priest, and many more hats that we may be required to wear is not easy. But this, too, is part of gaining or adding to your talents. Keep in mind, If you gain something and choose to let something go that you already gained, then truly you have suffered loss at your own hands and not gained at all. And that's what I mean is if he says, okay, I don't need you to be a hammer right now, I need you to be a nail, and you decide to say all I'm going to be is a nail, you have not gained a talent. You've actually suffered loss because you decided, hey, I'm going to stay over here. No, I'm going to need you to be able to transition back to a hammer when I need you to go back to a hammer. Jacob chapter 1 and verse 5 says, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of Elohim, that gives to all men liberally and upbraids not, and it shall be given him. When you don't understand, just ask. But the changing of roles can be very confusing because you might not know who wants you to be what at what time. So yeah, it becomes confusing that this person over here might need a brotherly figure from you while you're pouncing on a fatherly stance or a sister stance. They might need a mother. But can we see the transitions? I might not need you to be my priest right now. I need you to reason with me as a brother. But do we get stuck in priest mode and can't go into brother mode? Do we get stuck in brother mode and can't switch to priest mode? It is the most, I don't even know what word to say about what I heard when I heard one of the young sisters here said to one of the priests, can you go push your spiritual daughter on the swing? This came out of the mouth of a child to an elder about another child. Can you go push your spiritual daughter on the swing? Can we see each other's children as our spiritual children? And sometimes because somebody is close to age or up in age, might be older than our children, we can't see that that person needs for us to be their spiritual parent. Remember, we're all transitioning from the things of the world. The world can't help us. The world can't teach us. The world can't be a parent onto somebody new in this walk. That's where we all have to be able to step up, to be a parent to the new babe. But the new babe also needs to be able to humble themselves, to be seen as a child needing a parent. That's all we're going to do for this evening. Enjoy your new moon. Shalom.
Shalom.